All right, our next story is a CNN News 18 mega exclusive, a second threat from Canada after the Prime Minister Modi-Justin Trudeau meeting that took place on the sidelines of the G20. We're learning that militants are sending out threats from Canada. This is when the Canadian Prime Minister was in India. Now, in this fresh set of threats, we're learning that they've said that the Prime Minister should recall his ambassador, otherwise he will face consequences. They're referring over here, of course, to the Indian Prime Minister Modi. Now let's go over to my colleague Anand Narasimhan for more context over here. Anand, our audiences will remember on the margins of the G20 summit, Prime Minister Modi had flagged exactly this, anti-India threats and threats to diplomats. Now a second such threat. Can you bring our audiences context, please?
Morning to all our viewers. The fact is that Justin Trudeau has not yet left Delhi. And in the last 48 hours, since the technical snag that was developed in his airplane, and an old Airbus AC-10 is now coming as a replacement from Canada, there have been two instances of open provocation. One, the referendum call in Turkey, in Sari region, where they have openly called for the heads and targeting of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Foreign Minister Jaishankar, and also the Home Minister Amit Shah. There have been chants of secession. There have been graffiti that's been put, which is clearly secessionist in its tones. And one wonders whether this is in the realm of freedom of speech and expression. And this happened on the day when, on the anniversary of 9/11. So many are asking the same question: would Justin Trudeau give a free space and freedom of speech will accord them to those who are sympathetic to the likes of Osama bin Laden and terrorist outfits, and who justify the bombing of the Twin Towers? So when such questions are being asked because of the hypocritic position or a dual position that's being taken by the Canadian administration, especially vis-a-vis secessionist entities, and who are also involved in running of gangs, in narcotics smuggling, and also human trafficking on Indian soil. So, and of course, the smuggling of arms and ammunition. So, despite all of the evidences that have been provided to the Canadian counterparts time and again, there has been no action. In fact, there has been overt mollycoddling and trying to somewhere justify all of these actions under the garb of freedom of speech and expression. Justin Trudeau's father was the first one to call for emergency in Canada because of secessionist tendencies in Quebec. And after Justin Trudeau's father, it is only under Justin Trudeau when he had to call emergency when the entire farmer protests, etc., happened in Canada itself, where blocking of highways and even charging into the capital and into Toronto. Now the open threat against Ambassador Verma in Ottawa. This is not the first time. The last time also the Indian ambassador envoy there was stopped from entering an event, and he was openly, brazenly threatened and forced to go back. And the cops there on ground were just mute spectators, and it caused huge concern and furor about the safety of the embassy and our envoys and our diplomats on foreign soil, especially on Canadian soil, and about what the Canadian government was doing about it. The political compulsions cannot tantamount to Justin Trudeau looking the other way for all of this. And this is open, and he's still in Delhi. Now, this is huge embarrassment for Justin Trudeau because his own opposition there and the media there have banned him for being totally isolated and being sidelined at the G20, almost like treated like a pariah, being absolutely isolated. His foreign policy has been questioned. The position that he's taken and India's reprimand also has been highlighted in the Canadian media. Now with this second open provocation, I think it's quod erat demonstrandum. That means it's all demonstrated, the claims that have been made, and the proof lies in the demonstration. Now we'll have to see what Justin Trudeau says or does, or whether or not, because this means that further and further the equations are going to become frosty, and India will have to now take some hard calls vis-a-vis Canada is concerned.
Let me just ask you, Anand, the follow-up question. Let me also tell our audiences, Rubinder Sachdev is with us. We'll go to him in just a second. He's a foreign affairs expert who also remains with us. Anand, if I could just ask you a quick follow-up question. What do we know about the groups that are issuing these threats, particularly in this case?
These are all secessionist groups who are all backed by the Pak-based ISI. They have been funded openly, and they also have political patronage in Canada. And open Khalistani who's openly engaging with forces that are inimical to India and who are being funded or backed by the enemy on the other side, that is the Pak-backed ISI. This entire Khalistan narrative itself is a skewed one, has no logic. But the fact is that it's been orchestrated by those who are trying to push a K2 formula Kashmir and Khalistan. Now, with Kashmir out of their grasp and totally, swung over in terms of any narrative that they would have wanted to push over the last 3 to 4 decades, now they're trying to reactivate this entire Khalistan action.
Okay.
And more importantly, they're trying to, the funding, the influence, the narrative is all being pushed by the Pak ISI and their agents and elements who are operating on Canadian and American soil. And Justin Trudeau's partner, ally, the finger points to that person, Mr. Dhaliwal, and his own inclinations and what his own intentions are. And is it political compulsions as highlighted by Foreign Minister Jaishankar? That's the question, and at what cost?
Okay.
And clearly matters will come to the head because the opposition is having a field day in Canada right now.